Hello and welcome to First Chapter Friday. My name is Eva and I'm one of the librarians here at the Alameda Free Library. Today I am going to read to you from a book that is about one of the greatest athletes in the world. It's a small, robin-sized shorebird that goes by the name B95. But fans call him Moonbird. This bird has traveled from the top of the world to the bottom of the world so many times that he's flown the same distance as all the way to the moon and halfway back. His story is astounding, and if you like what you hear, you can put this book on hold at the library and pick it up through curbside service. I hope you enjoy what you hear. Okay, I've turned the camera around so that you'll be able to see the photographs in this book. I've also skipped ahead a little bit in chapter 1, past where B95 has first been captured and banded and released. Now we're at 2001, an identity. 6 years later, on November 17th, 2001, one of the black-banded birds from 1995 was snared in a cannon net catch just miles from where he was originally caught. Both bands were still on his legs. Patricia Gonzalez added a new flag to his upper left leg, bearing the inscription B95. On that day, we used laser-inscribed flags for the first time, recalls Gonzalez. We inscribed one letter and two numbers on each band to give each individual bird a distinct identity. The figures were big and clear and easy to read through a spotting scope. We used up all 100 of the band in Series A, and we still had more birds to band, so we started the B series. This bird got a flag reading B95. The 95 doesn't represent the year he was caught. We just happened to be at that number when we banded him. It's a coincidence that 95 was the year when he was first captured. 2003, a survivor. Now he was, and always would be, B95. And when he turned up again at Tierra del Fuego in 2003, it was clear he was more than just an extraordinary pilot who could find his way back year after year. He was a survivor, for the entire Rufous subspecies of red knots was plunging toward extinction. Researchers in the United States, Chile, Canada, Brazil, and Argentina were all reporting significantly fewer knots. Some estimates indicated that half of all adult birds had died in just 2 years between 2000 and 2002. Yet in 2003, B95, at least 11 years old, was still completing marathon migratory flights. Something about this bird was exceptional. He seemed to possess some extraordinary combination of physical toughness, navigational skill, judgment, and luck. 2007, the Moonbird. B95 was captured again in Tierra del Fuego 6 years later on November 8, 2007. Once the birds were freed from the net, researchers assembled into teams and began to band, weigh, and measure them. Each team worked efficiently in brilliant sunlight and said little beyond the statistics they were reporting. That changed when Alan Baker was heard to mutter the words, "My God." Everyone looked up. Dr. Baker was holding a knot between his thumb and forefinger at arm's length and staring intently at it. I looked down, and there was the black flag of the 1995 catch and the band inscribed B95, he recalls. I couldn't believe I was holding him. In the 12 years since Dr. Baker had first met this bird, his own hair had whitened. But B95 looked ageless. He was in fantastic condition, Dr. Baker recalls. His weight was where it should be. He had wonderful plumage. He was as fit as a 3-year-old. I was holding a super bird in my hand. Researchers scrambled to their feet and clustered around. Some went for cameras. Patricia Gonzalez, an expert on the development of bird feathers, remembers feeling guilty for leaving her post, but she couldn't help it. Here in Dr. Baker's grasp was the Moonbird, as B95 was now called by shorebird enthusiasts, a feathered veteran of 30 or more migratory flights between the bottom of the world and the top. But there was more to it than that. He was alive, remembers Gonzalez, her voice catching in the telling, still alive. When B-95 was born on an Arctic day long ago, he was one of an estimated 150,000 Rufa redknots. Now the world population was far less than half that number. Some were predicting Rufa's extinction within the next 5 years unless something could be done quickly. After recording B-95's measurements, Alan Baker handed him carefully to Patricia Gonzalez. She examined the condition of B-95's plumage, now gray and white instead of the red of his breeding season, and checked the progress of his molt, which had not yet begun at this early date. She inserted a thin needle beneath his wing and drew a small quantity of blood, which would later confirm that B-95 is a male. The bird remained calm in Gonzalez's grasp, even though her hands were trembling as she worked. I kept talking to him, she remembers. I kept saying, "Forgive me, please, I won't hurt you. I will release you soon." The heat of his tiny body was warming my hands, and his heart was beating so fast. As I was working, I kept wondering, how can such a fragile thing be so powerful? Gonzalez noticed that B-95 had lost the original yellow band from his lower left leg. She replaced it with an orange band, orange for Argentina. When she finished, the bird had an orange flag with B-95 on his upper left leg, an orange band on his lower left leg, and the old black flag on the lower right leg. She took a long, final look at him before releasing him. What stories he could tell. How had this small creature made it through so many storms? How had he avoided the falcon's chopping dive every single time? Above all, how had he managed to stay alive when so many others had fallen? Patricia Gonzalez knew she had to let him go. She adjusted the bands and flags on his legs, held him out toward the sea, and opened her hands. He fluttered for a moment to right himself in the air, regained control of his powerful wings, then flew off on a sharp curve to the right and disappeared. Now, 2 years later, here I am, crouching in Argentine beach grass with a small group of scientists and volunteers, waiting for the cannon's boom and hoping to meet B-95. When it sounds, we run zigzagging through the trash-strewn beach grass and sprint out onto the shore. We scoop the front of the net from the water to free the teeming, writhing, chattering birds. We spend the rest of the day banding them, measuring bills and wings, drawing blood to determine gender, and recording statistics that will later be computerized. In the end, we catch 156 knots. 26 are retraps, meaning they have been captured before and are already banded. About 25% of the birds are juveniles, with yellow legs and white crescents beneath gray feathers. They have just completed the first half of their rookie circuit around the Western Hemisphere. Almost all the flags are Argentine orange, but none says B-95. Where is he? Did he manage to wiggle out under the net? Is he foraging just down the beach? Has he decided to stay farther north this season? Or has his time finally come? Alan Baker and Patricia Gonzalez decide that one good catch is enough for the season. They don't want to stress these birds any further or divert them from the important work they have to do each and every day to prepare for their upcoming journey north. With no remaining chance to capture B-95, our only hope is that a sharp-eyed observer will spot him through a beach telescope. Given that thousands of knots are spread out over miles and miles of beaches and flats in Tierra del Fuego, the odds seem minuscule. I fly back to the United States on Monday, December 14, and immediately begin typing up my notes. As I sit at my computer, I hear the faint bell indicating an email message. I look up. I see it's from Patricia Gonzalez with the subject, Un viejo amigo, Spanish for an old friend. It begins, "Yesterday morning while scanning for red knots at Malvinas Memorial Monument, we saw B-95. As all the birds were moving very fast, at first I did not realize he was there, but then, when I could see the combination of bands, can you not imagine what joy I felt?" I push my chair back and let the message wash over me. He is still alive. While so many other Rufa redknots have disappeared, B-95 is in Tierra del Fuego, just as he always is at this time of year, plucking spat off the restinga shells, preening his new flight feathers into flight readiness, practicing snap the whip formation flying with the others, and getting ready for another flight north that no other knot knows better how to make. He has survived another year of marathon flights, and now, nearly 18 years of age, is getting ready for perhaps his most challenging flight yet. Super bird indeed. That's not the half of it. This bird has to be among the toughest 4 ounces of life in the world.